What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Happy end of the week, and it looks like the end of the week's going to bring us a green day after a massively volatile week here in the cryptocurrency market. In today's video, we're going to take a look at what's been going on. Is the bottom in for this pullback? So we'll take a look at things like what I have here on the screen, the total market cap of the cryptocurrency market. We'll take a peek at the Bitcoin price chart because Bitcoin's been kind of telling us a story. We'll take a peek over at the altcoin market and we'll look at various altcoins to show you kind of my perspective of what's going on here in the market and why I'm still so bullish on the altcoin market. But let's talk about what's been happening right now in the shorter term time frame. Picking out what happens in the short term time frame is always very difficult. Everybody wants to sell the top, everybody wants to buy the bottom of every little move, but doing so accurately is quite difficult. That's why for me, I primarily focus on the much bigger perspective of this market. I come into this with a multi-year time frame. As you guys know, I've had this YouTube channel for years. Always said I'm an accumulator, I'm not a day trader, waiting for the big bull runs to happen, and as they happen, I play the bigger swings in this market. I don't play these short-term time frames, these little moves that happen every few days. Nearly everything that I own is in long-term capital gain status at this point. The only things that I have that are not in long-term capital gains are the things that I bought after I sold Bitcoin back in February. So we're actually only a couple months away before I get to turn those into long-term capital gains. So, a little bittersweet. Do I want the bull run to happen right now, or do I want it to kind of wait till the end of February? Either way, we'll move on from that. Let's talk about what's been happening recently. As you can see, the total market cap of the entire cryptocurrency market does appear to have found some type of support. My personal guess is that that was good enough. We could see that in yesterday's videos, we were talking about Elliott waves. I do believe this will be our hold level right in here. We can see this is also coordinating with the top that was set back in May. So this should come in as a pretty strong supportive region, considering it was a resistance level for over 6 months. Now we're through it. Now we're back testing it. It's completely normal to back test a broken resistance area. So it's optimistic to see the green showing up on the board. It's showing up throughout the whole market. Also, as we did break down in here, as the bottom started coming in here, this looks like a standard shorts closing area to me, and this is the final flush. So I'm optimistic that the bottom of the altcoin market or the bottom of the total market is in. It does not mean that this thing is going to fire out completely straight. This thing can work, and we're looking at short-term time frames here. Look at this. We're looking at over the course of the next 3 or 4 days. These things can just do something like this and then work back in here and then finally work their way out. And this can take several days for something like this to happen, but I'm optimistic that this level should hold in here, as this was the major area that we had to break through that kept us down for 6 months. Now, as for Bitcoin, I'm going to be talking a lot less about Bitcoin in the coming weeks or months as this bull run continues for the altcoin market. At least I hope that it does continue, because for Bitcoin, I just don't see as much optimism over here. And let's be real, that's not what the market wants to hear right now. Everybody wants to hear that these prices are going to continue to surge for Bitcoin, and I just don't think that it is. And from a structural perspective, I don't see anything incredibly bullish happening over here with Bitcoin. And I think really the best case scenario for Bitcoin at this point is that it somehow can, even after setting this new low in here, if it could somehow still be in distribution over here. And if it's still just kind of mirroring something that's happening back in here, if it can somehow recover, set a couple of just little baby highs up in here. But for me personally, I think Bitcoin's in distribution. But as we saw in the last distribution phase of Bitcoin back in earlier this year, this was also an exciting time period for the altcoin market. And I think we're going to see something like that again on a grander scale for the things that are still farther behind. And I spend a lot of time looking around the entire market. So for me to find the confluences within the market, I try to find things that have happened in other areas before. Are we seeing similar things happening right now? Is it possible that those things could happen again? And right here on the screen, I have an old school coin called SIA coin. Now, I do own some SIA coin, and it's because I've owned it for several years. I'm not recommending anybody go out and buy this. I don't know what's going to end up happening with SIA coin, but I do own it. But the nice thing about this chart is how much historical data that it has. You can see this chart dates back to 2015, and we could see a really clear wave structure of what happened for SIA coin in the 2017 bull market, and that we can look at how big corrections were back then before it went off into its next run and its next phase. And that this run right here, this was the end of the bull run. So Bitcoin's top was already in when ALTCOIN was going in for its big push to finish off the market, which is what we saw historically throughout all of the market, as all the altcoins went on a big major push when the Bitcoin top came in. And well, as you can see, ALTCOIN has gone through a major fall during this time period, like a lot of altcoins have. And we could see that ALTCOIN actually fell about 87% during this pullback that happened right in here. Are there any circumstances during 2017 where ALTCOIN fell 87% and then went off into a big run? And yeah, it absolutely did. That's exactly what it did back in here, is it fell 85% and then back over here it ended up falling 87%. So it had an 87% fall before it went off into its big blast off to finish off the market. And we kind of see these structures that showed up over here on ALTCOIN before the runs ended up going in here. And that what we're seeing right now, while at this exact time period for ALTCOIN doesn't exactly look thrilling or exciting, we've seen similar structures like this happen before the prices end up breaking out and going for another big run. In addition, taking a look at another altcoin, which would be Ethereum Classic, we can see how Ethereum Classic had a big, massive run here, going from about $5 up to almost $200. And while Ethereum Classic has been consolidating up here near the previous all-time high, spending time just bouncing around on top of right here. So does it make a whole lot of sense for it to break into the new all-time high, really work out as a support zone, the all-time high, and then it's just going to fall apart and break down? I highly doubt that. It seems much more likely that there would still be another leg for Ethereum Classic, and I'll show you why. We can even look at previous bull runs for Ethereum Classic and see how these run-ups can end up looking. And you can see right in there what it looks like, right? You see the big fat run-up right in here, then a really big pullback, and then one more push. So would it make sense to me that Ethereum Classic does like what I've talked about with Bitcoin? It just barely goes and breaks the all-time high, and then after that, Ethereum Classic goes into a bear market? Sure, absolutely. It would make perfect sense for me for that to happen, because we've seen that happen with Ethereum Classic before. But as we can also see in these structures for Ethereum Classic, you have a big run-up, have its first major profit taking, then go for its one more big push up higher. And I believe that's where we're at with Ethereum Classic as well. I can draw up other scenarios where Ethereum Classic can go much higher than that, where it doesn't just break a little bit above there. But the fact is that it had this big fat run up here. It's finding support and really working out this area on top of the all-time high. It just looks so likely to me that Ethereum Classic is going to have another push. In addition, if we kind of zoom in on the structure of what's been happening here with Ethereum Classic, and I'll take that off the screen, we can compare what something like that looked like back in 2017 for the XRP price chart, in which the XRP price chart ended up having a similar thing with a very big fallback in here with an ABC correction. And even over here on XRP during this time period and this multi-month consolidation, and if we look at this, this lasted from what, May all the way until December, and here we are in May, heading all the way till December, 4 years apart, having these ABC corrections come in here, and then structurally, all of this looking very similar. And if we were kind of to compare where Ethereum Classic would be right in now, it would seem apparent that it would be somewhere like right in here for XRP. And we can see how there was 3 times in which it had to touch the bottom. You can see how it rolled up multiple times and then finally had a big sell-off, which would be equivalent to this one, moving sideways, still consolidating. And this is just what happens in these corrections before the end of the Bitcoin bull run. So remember, Bitcoin topped, I believe, December 17th. And we can see how XRP took off into that ending phase and that retracement phase of Bitcoin. But leading up all the way until there, 7 months of just complete boredom and torture in here. And I believe that's something similar to what we're seeing happening over here with Ethereum Classic, especially with it consolidating over here on the top. So these aren't coins we talk about tremendously. I did talk about Ethereum Classic a bit earlier this year, because when I rotated out of my Bitcoin, I rotated into, I believe, 5 different coins. Ethereum Classic was one of them, EOS, Dash, Zcash, Bitcoin Cash, XRP. But Ethereum Classic was a big one. This is one of the ones that did actually end up taking off and do a big, massive run. But as you can see where the consolidation is taking place and what the structure is looking like, I don't see anything bearish over here for Ethereum Classic from a big macro scale. scale. So we're looking at kind of some weird altcoins here, right? We're looking at Ethereum Classic, we're looking at ALTCOIN. These are not things that people talk about regularly, but I look to a lot of the rest of the market to say, are we seeing signs showing up in the market of things that we've seen before these altcoins take off? And structurally for Ethereum Classic, it's got a very similar setup from hitting a top in May, like we saw with XRP in 2017, structurally very similar in here, and the amount of time it's taking to consolidate here is normal, like we saw with XRP. The big fall in ALTCOIN, 87%, which happened twice during the bull run back in 2017 for ALTCOIN, structurally setting up for what it looks like before it does end up breaking out. These things provide optimism to me for the altcoin market. We've spent a lot of time talking about the total market cap with the rally prior to capitulation, leading to the 4.236 with the breakout and backtest, which is cool and all, and we've seen it happen before, but I've got to find other things happening in the market too to give that confidence or that conviction that that's what's going on in here as well. And so when I formulate my whole perception of the market, yes, these things are important to me, but it can't just be blind faith. I've got to look around at other aspects of the market too. And so I'll look at all that crazy stuff. I'll look at Ethereum Classic. I'll look at ALTCOIN. I'll look at the XRP price chart. I'll compare that corrective structure to see what has happened with other major corrections that have taken place in the cryptocurrency market, like with what Bitcoin did back in 2014, 15, and 16, as Bitcoin went into a major correction, to see that the corrective structure looks good. The sideways consolidation, hey, that's what we saw happen in Bitcoin before it went off in a big run. So whether I'm looking at the total market cap, whether I'm looking at the altcoin market cap, whether I'm looking at XRP or I'm looking at ALTCOIN, Ethereum Classic, or any of the other altcoins out there, it's all to try to build this big picture of what's happening in the market. And everywhere I look, I see all this optimism there for the altcoin market. It's hard for me to draw the conclusion that the altcoin market isn't bullish. It just looks so bullish to me. But then I have to ask myself, if the altcoin market is going to be bullish, and if the altcoin market is going to take off, what needs to be happening from a macro perspective in the market for that to occur? Because when we look at the Bitcoin price chart and we check the historical time periods of where major alt seasons have happened, they've happened at very specific places. They've happened at the top of the Bitcoin bull run twice, and then they happened once as Bitcoin was breaking out into its all-time high back in here. So if we look at the location of where Bitcoin is at right now, and we say, all right, is Bitcoin matching any of these circumstances? Well, we know it's not in this time period, because that time period would have been back in here. We know we're not there, and we know that the alt seasons only show up and the altcoins go flying like crazy during specific phases of Bitcoin, either after breaking out from a multi-year bear market or as the Bitcoin top is coming in. So I look at the altcoin market, I say, I see all these things that look so similar. I see all these things that look so bullish for the altcoin market. If these altcoins are going to take off, then what's the most likely thing that has to happen for Bitcoin? And if it's not that moment, then it has to be that moment. It has to be the top of the Bitcoin bull run. So I don't express my opinion on Bitcoin coming at it from this big bearish perspective and this person who hates Bitcoin. I've understood Bitcoin and given Bitcoin the respect that it deserves, because historically, the charts all show it. We don't have alt seasons. We don't have a party in the cryptocurrency market unless Bitcoin goes off on a big, massive bull run. So I've always been this big cheerleader for Bitcoin because of what it does for the rest of the market. But the altcoin market looks super bullish right now. And based on all the historical context that we have, the only reason those things would completely break out and go crazy if there was some big rotational play that happened in this market. And historically, that would mean Bitcoin would be topping. And so I've spent a whole lot of time addressing this and how I do believe Bitcoin's wrapping up the end of its major super cycle, but that is super bullish for the altcoin market. So I'm an altcoin guy, man. It's not because I'm part of like a movement or I need to be part of, down with Bitcoin. It must be the altcoins. It's nothing like that. It's merely me spending so much time studying all of these charts, and that we can deny this all we want. We can just sit here and deny that that's not the exact same thing. But the reality is it is the exact same thing. It's identical. And as Bitcoin broke out in here, the market behaved just like it did back in 2013. We also know that during this time period right in here, retail investors were very pessimistic on Bitcoin. Now, go look at the polls. Retail investors all won $100,000. What does that mean? The retail investors bought the big green candles. That's normal. I'm not taking a shot at you guys. That's just what happens, man. That's why people are buying SHIB at these super high prices after it rose 2,000% in a matter of 3 weeks. They buy it because they want more. Will it go higher? Maybe. Who knows? But all of the altcoin market to me, or at least the stuff that has been pausing for a long time, the stuff that hasn't been continuing to be parabolic, all that stuff looks so exciting to me right now. And in order for all those things to take off, Bitcoin breaking out and going to $100,000 is not a circumstance in which that has historically happened. If Bitcoin did that, you would see the altcoins get left behind. And with how bullish all the altcoins that are way behind look to me, I just don't see that scenario playing out. If the altcoins are to break out because they are so bullish, the circumstances based on history would say that the top of the Bitcoin bull run is coming in. But either way, no matter where you stand on that, I always talk about how mathematics and percentages mean so much to me, and it does just boggle my mind. It really does, and I challenge everybody to think for themselves for a second here. Have you run the math on what a $100,000 Bitcoin price would mean? What percentage gain are you getting? What is going to happen to your life in that circumstance if Bitcoin hits $100,000? Congrats, you win a video game. I mean, is it going to change your life in any potential way? I don't think so. I think everybody we hold on to our egos and we don't want to be wrong. And I can understand that. But why in the world, after Bitcoin has already risen 2,071%, are so many people so concerned with getting 72% more? 72%. It is boggling. It's just a psychology factor of the market. But for me, the goal has always been, how do I get that one? How do I get to be the guy who did that? And that's what motivated me to start studying these markets in super detail, to figure out where's the rotation happening, what phases of the market is occurring when these altcoins go on these big blasts. How do I not be the guy to buy SHIB after it's up 2,000%, hoping that it does it all over again? And over again, I keep getting drawn back to, I accumulate when things are boring and nobody wants anything to do with it, and I sell stuff when everybody thinks it's going to keep going up much higher. And right now, I look at the altcoins and they've all got me excited because a lot of people don't pay attention to stuff that is low. They pay attention to it after it already takes off. And so I'm looking at it saying, man, this stuff looks like it wants to take off. So what conditions in the market are we in? And we can look at what has happened. And if the altcoins are going to take off, and if we're not here, then by default, we have to be here or here. And based on previous Bitcoin bull run super cycles, it also indicates that we are there. So you can kind of have an understanding of my mindset that I'm not using any type of like magical super formula of a legend who's a time traveler or anything like that. It's very simple. I look at the market and I say, I think the altcoins are bullish. I think the altcoins are going to break out and go much higher. And what are the market conditions that have to be happening for that to occur? It has to be that Bitcoin is either breaking into an all-time high or Bitcoin is getting up near its top. And I look at the previous super cycles and see that we've reached out to the levels of the top. And for that, it makes more sense to me that the top of the Bitcoin bull run is coming in than anything else. It's not a disdain for Bitcoin. It's not a negative FUD pessimism about Bitcoin. It's the simple mathematics and the simple macro perspective that the altcoin market looks like it's ready to take off, and that typically only occurs in specific situations of a Bitcoin bull run. The Bitcoin bull run has reached out to a full extension of what a super cycle is. It's also had the same corrective structures happen here on the way for a full mega super cycle. And when this super cycle happened, it did lead to an alt season. And for that, that is why I believe the top of the Bitcoin bull run is happening, in addition to it being a full 4.236 extension based on the 2018 bear market. But all of these things point to a really exciting time period for the altcoin market. So I'm loaded up in all these coins that are low right now, thinking to myself, man, are we about to get that show-stopping event? Are we about to get where these altcoins go completely blasting upwards? And that's how I've positioned myself in this market. And that's why I'm mega bullish on the cryptocurrency market. And I'm bearish on Bitcoin because I'm mega bullish on the rest of the cryptocurrency market, because the only circumstances of the rest of the cryptocurrency market being mega bullish is if Bitcoin becomes bearish, or if Bitcoin is breaking out into a new all-time high after a multi-year bear market. We know we're not in this circumstance right now. So if I'm super mega bullish on the rest of the cryptocurrency market, by default, I have to be thinking that the top of the Bitcoin bull run is coming in. Otherwise, if I'm just assuming we're doing something like this for Bitcoin right in here, well, look what happens with the altcoin market. Absolutely nothing. So it's kind of one or the other at this point for Bitcoin based on what we've seen. If you're mega bullish on Bitcoin, you got to be bearish on the altcoins. And if you're mega bullish on the altcoins, you got to be bearish on Bitcoin. And that's just what the charts show us. That's just how the market has behaved. So it's not me being personally negative towards Bitcoin. It's me being very bullish on the altcoin market. And in order to be bullish on the altcoin market, certain macro conditions have to be met. And for that, the big macro perspective is that Bitcoin needs to be turning bearish. And I hope that gives you a very clear insight into my mind. But all right, that's going to wrap it up for this one. I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic weekend. I'm glad to see that we're finishing the week off with some green. If you're looking for something to do throughout the weekend, of course, you can check out my website over here, which is bcbacker.crypto. This is a course that I put together over here on my website where I deep dive into the previous Bitcoin bull runs, the different altcoin market cycles. I tied them all together. I show how the cryptocurrency market has worked in the past. I talk about my personal exit plans in here, and I teach you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. I talk a lot about mathematics and percentages and why those are so important to me. And just last week, I did add a couple of updates in here. I added the exit plan for Ethereum Part 4 final update in here, and I also added the blockchain backer exit plan Part 4 progress update. This one's 20 minutes, this one's 10 minutes. Both of those are available in the course and available to anybody enrolled in the course and anybody who newly enrolls in the course. And you could check out all of this educational content over here on bcbacker.com. You could follow me over here on Twitter at bcbacker, and I want to thank you so much for watching my channel. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.